The following may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Police rescue troubled teenager. Police officers are being commended for rescuing a 14-year-old girl who was reportedly considering jumping from the top of the parkade on Richmond Street, Port of Spain on Wednesday. According to reports, passers-by saw the teenager on top of the building around 2:40 p.m. after numerous failed attempts by those looking on for her to get down. A TTPS release said Acting Corporal George and PCs Andrews and Nanan from the Northern Eastern Division Task Force were proceeding along Edward Street when, on reaching the parkade, they were told by persons that a female was standing on the ledge of the upper floor of the car park. The officers made their way to the top floor of the building, where they saw a female sitting on a rail overlooking the street. Two concerned citizens were engaged in conversation with the minor, attempting to dissuade her from her intentions. PC Andrews cautiously took control of the situation, assuring the girl that her life held value and she would be given any help she needed to overcome whatever situation she faced. As he kept her focused on him, Corporal George cautiously approached her from behind and was able to grab hold of her and take her to safety. She was taken to the Central Police Station on St. Vincent Street, where she was interviewed and then taken for medical treatment. The release said the social work unit was contacted to provide counseling for both the minor and her mother. Prisoner attempts daring escape immediately after being granted $150,000 bail. A Felicity man accused of attempting to escape lawful custody by allegedly jumping out of a prisoner transport vehicle after appearing in court on domestic violence charges almost 3 weeks ago has been granted $150,000 bail. Justin Ramlochan was granted bail yesterday when he reappeared before Magistrate Adrian Darmani for the first time since the incident on May 16. Ramlochan's mother and brother were approved to be sureties for his bail, and his case was adjourned to June 13, when the domestic violence charges are also expected to come up for hearing. According to police reports, the incident occurred around 4:45 p.m. as Ramlochan and two remand prisoners were being transported in an Amalgamated Security Services Limited vehicle. While the vehicle was proceeding along the Uriah Butler Highway near Grand Bazaar in Valsan, Ramlochan, who was shackled, allegedly pried open the back door and leapt out. Ramlochan, who sustained serious injuries to his head, hand, and face, was taken to the nearby Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex in Mount Hope by police officers who were escorting the prisoner transport vehicle. It is understood that hours before the incident, Ramlochan was granted $150,000 bail after he appeared before Magistrate Darmani to answer one charge for ASSAULTING, his ex-girlfriend, 2 charges for malicious damage, and 1 for breaking and entering. The charges, which Ramlochan pleaded not guilty to, stemmed from an incident with his ex-girlfriend last month. Under the conditions of his bail, Magistrate Darmani ordered that he stay 800 meters away from the victim and report to his nearest police station once weekly for the duration of the case. Ramlochan was also placed on a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. curfew. He remained warded at the hospital under police guard until he was discharged on Tuesday morning and slapped with the escaping lawful custody charge. In applying for separate bail for Ramlochan yesterday, his attorney, Bimal Maharaj, noted that at the time of the incident, his client was being transported to the Eastern Correctional Rehabilitation Center, where his family was scheduled to present their bail documents to a justice of the peace for approval. Maharaj noted that he had requested the disclosure of CCTV footage of Ramlochan's alleged escape attempt, as he stated that his family suspected foul play based on the circumstances. He also noted that Ramlochan's family had difficulties visiting him and getting updates on his condition while he was at the hospital. Marabella laborer erased in drive-by. A 28-year-old laborer was SHOT during a drive-by in Marabella last night. He was identified as Kirby Doyle of 2nd Street, Batu Avenue. Police said that at around 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, 31st of May 2022, Doyle was riding a bicycle when the occupants of a white Chevy motor vehicle opened fire on him near the corner of Ramanan and Gopal Streets. Reports are that Doyle fell off the bicycle and succumbed to his injuries. Officers of the Homicide Bureau of Investigations Region 3 and San Fernando and Marabella police stations visited the scene. Investigations are ongoing. 2 men erased, 1 hospitalized while liming in Arima. A drive-by SHOOTING in Arima has left 2 men deceased and another hospitalized. According to police reports, Maron Beckles, 26, and Kylon Lewis, 27, both of Temple Street, Arima, were liming with Jabari Subero, 18, of the same area, when around 11:15 p.m., 4 men wearing camouflage ski masks came out of a black Nissan X-Trail and opened fire on the victims. The 3 victims were taken to the Arima Health Facility, where Beckles and Lewis were pronounced dead. Subero was listed in stable condition, suffering from a GUN/SHOT wound to the chest. Inspector Ramsaran, Inspector Sylvester, and other officers are continuing inquiries. Venezuelan woman released hours after abduction. Venezuelan Margisi Carolina Barrios Baldalo was assisting police with their investigation on Tuesday night after she was freed by her abductors hours after they snatched her during a home invasion at her Wallerfield apartment. The woman recently came to T&T from Venezuela and has been staying at an apartment in Wallerfield. According to police reports, 2 assailants broke into the apartment using bolt cutters and other housebreaking apparatus. The men ransacked the apartment, taking valuables. Venezuelans Alex Rodriguez, 35, and Levisa Garcia, 49, were then tied up by the assailants. However, when the assailants were leaving, they took Barrios Baldalo and put her in their getaway vehicle, a black Mitsubishi SUV. A family friend who translated for the family stated that 2 men entered the apartment just after 2 a.m. and announced a robbery. He said the assailants took jewelry, cell phones, and valuables. At the time, he asked that Barrios Baldalo be freed. "We're asking for her safe return. She has not been in Trinidad very long," he said. The family said they are now afraid as they have nowhere else to go. They also fear the men will return to the apartment. Investigations are ongoing. Mayaro man wins appeal in double homicide case. A Mayaro man has won an appeal over his conviction for the homicide of his ex-girlfriend and her 18-month-old son in 2005. Appellate judges Alex York-Suhan, Mark Mohammed, and Maria Wilson quashed Anand Babulal's conviction as they upheld his appeal during a virtual hearing yesterday. Despite their decision in Babulal's case, the judges decided against a retrial as they opted to use their discretion to substitute convictions for the lesser offense of manslaughter. Justice Mohammed, who delivered the panel's judgment, stated that he and his colleague agreed with Babulal's lawyer Daniel Khan and Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions DPP George Busby that manslaughter convictions based on the partial defense of provocation might be the likely outcome of a retrial based on the evidence. He also pointed out that the panel agreed that a retrial would not be in the interest of justice, considering the recently phased reintroduction of jury trials following a hiatus during the COVID-19 pandemic. After being convicted of the homicides in 2016, Babalal received a mandatory death penalty. However, his sentence was effectively commuted to life imprisonment, as a death penalty was not carried out within 5 years of his conviction, as required under the landmark Privy Council ruling in the Jamaican case of Pratt and Morgan. The appeal panel did not immediately decide on the appropriate sentence for Babalal, as Khan and Busby requested time to make extensive submissions on the issue. The submissions were expected to be filed by June 17, with the panel sentencing Babalal on June 30. Babalal was charged with the homicide of 26-year-old Ria Ramlochan and her son Timothy Ragbir in August 2005. Ramlochan was found in the bathroom at her Solomon Avenue Mayaro home. She had been stabbed 3 times in her chest and abdomen. Her son's body was found wrapped in a fishing net in the Mafeking River. An autopsy revealed that he had suffered over a dozen STAB, WOUNDS, and CUTS on his body. His PUBIC area was also found to be MUTILATED. During his trial, prosecutors presented a confession statement which they claimed Babalal gave days after his arrest. In the statement, Babalal allegedly told police that on the day of the incident, he visited Ramlochan's home and they had an argument. He claimed that she lunged at him with a knife and he attempted to disarm her. He also allegedly said that they fell on the bed where her son was lying and that he accidentally stabbed her while they were wrestling for the WEAPON. Babalal claimed that he blacked out upon seeing the large quantity of BLOOD and only remembered waking up in his brother's home the following morning. Although Babalal did not testify at the trial, his attorneys contended that the statement was fabricated, and Babalal was THREATENED by investigators at GUNPOINT to sign it. In the appeal, Babalal's lawyers claimed that the trial judge made errors in advising the jury on how to consider the statement and the notes from 2 previous interviews in which Babalal denied any wrongdoing and claimed that he was at his father's home at the time of the incident. They also challenged the judge's handling of the witness, who claimed that he saw Babalal near Ramlochan's home on the day she was alleged to have been erased. Babalal's claim over the judge's summation of the evidence in the case were all dismissed by the appeal panel. It was clear, cogent, and concise, Justice Mohammed said. The only ground on which the panel agreed is that the judge did not properly direct the jury on how to consider whether Babalal could benefit from the partial defense of provocation. Babalal was also represented by Eula Nathai Luchman, while Sabrina Dugdeen Jaglal appeared alongside Busby for the DPP's office. What's your verdict? Do you believe that justice was served? Or do you believe that this vile miscreant deserves the death penalty? Cunupia farmers say they are under siege from criminals. Farmers say they are under siege from criminals who are now staging ARMED ATTACKS at garden camps. The latest ATTACK occurred around 8 p.m. in a camp off Bridle Road in Jerningham Junction, Cunupia, on Saturday, where corn farmer Karan Mahibir was held at GUNPOINT, HOGTIED, and BEATEN. The assailant stole his vehicle, a Nissan Frontier valued at $180,000, and his wallet containing an undisclosed sum of cash and documents. A few days before, a Wallafield farmer suffered the same fate, but was also set on FIRE. Speaking yesterday, Mahibir called on the police to ramp up patrols in the Quinnipiac area, saying farmers are soft targets for robbers. Mahibir said, "Right now the farmers have no protection. We have to work from morning to night. We have to stay in the camp to protect our crop because we are close to harvesting, and at night we can't rest because robbers attacking us." He called on the police to set up roadblocks near the farmlands. "We need the roads to lock down and a regular patrol system from the government police. Pradial larceny squad of officers are trying their best, and it is not their fault. Whoever is in charge of them is not doing enough for them to cover the whole area, and that is why we need regular police," Mahibir said. Another farmer, Ganesh Sipersad, said, "Nobody cares and many farmers are not reporting the crimes. People are frustrated. What are we going to do now? This isn't the only example of ARMED robbery. Many other farmers are facing this problem. There is no security. The condition of the road is deplorable, and there is nothing in place to protect us." He noted that with the cost of fertilizers escalating, many farmers were now struggling to earn a living. Farmers are breaking almost even. The price of chemicals is now 100%. The salt we use for corn was $190 a bag last year, and now it's over $400. Chemicals were $150, and now it's $300, he lamented. To see farmers working so hard all during the day and even at night, we're pulling water from a drain from a quarter mile and using pumps to irrigate the crops, and now you find that people are coming to take the crops in the night. Farmers are living in fear, and they don't want to stay in their camps again. He said Mahibir had invested more than $60,000 in his cornfields. "It is like he will lose everything and nobody is offering any assistance," he said. Meanwhile, farmers at 2nd Corial Branch Road in Ear Village also say they are facing theft. Farmers in that area say the thieves are ARMED, and most farmers had opted not to stay in their camps. Minister of Agriculture Kazim Hossein expressed sympathy with the farmers and said discussions are ongoing to boost the Pradial larceny squad. Father ordered to face retrial for SEXUAL offenses. A man has been ordered to face a retrial on 5 charges related to the alleged SEXUAL abuse of his 15-year-old daughter almost 14 years ago. Appellate judges York Zuhan, Mark Mohammed, and Gillian Lucky ordered the retrial for the man who cannot be identified in order to protect the victim's identity, as they upheld his appeal against his conviction during a virtual hearing on Tuesday. The appeal panel found that the judge who presided over the man's trial made several technical errors in handling the case, as they would have materially affected the outcome. "We are not satisfied that the jury properly directed would, without doubt, have convicted the appellant upon a consideration of the whole of the admissible evidence," they said. According to the evidence in the case, the 4 alleged ATTACKS occurred between April 2008 and October 2009, while the teenager and her 3 younger sisters were living with their father after he and their mother ended their relationship. The victim reported the abuse to her mother when she, her sisters, and her mother went to a restaurant in Mayaro to celebrate her birthday. Her father was eventually charged with attempted INCEST, 2 counts of grievous SEXUAL, ASSAULT, and 2 counts of indecent ASSAULT. He denied any wrongdoing and claimed that the teenager fabricated the allegations against him. During the father's eventual trial, The victim claimed she did not want to testify as her relationship with him had healed, and she did not want to see him go to prison. The victim was deemed a hostile witness, and the judge allowed prosecutors to put her witness statements to police and her deposition from the preliminary inquiry into evidence. The father was eventually convicted and was sentenced to 20 years in prison for attempted incest, 16 years for the two grievous sexual assault charges, and 5 years for the two indecent assault charges. The judge ordered that the sentences run concurrently. In the appeal, the panel had to consider whether the judge was correct to deem the victim a hostile witness, although she did not deny or contradict her previous claims of the abuse she suffered. In light of the virtual complainant's reluctance to give evidence and refusal to have her memory refreshed, she was being hostile to the interests of the prosecution, the panel said. However, the panel ruled that the judge was wrong to admit both her statements to the police and her deposition, as they felt that only one or the other should have been admitted into evidence. The introduction of both the statements and the deposition had the real potential to cause the jury to reason along a forbidden path, whereby an artificial boost to the credibility of the witness could have been rendered, the panel said. The panel also criticized the judge for improperly commenting on the questions the victim was asked by the defense attorney. While the judges said that the statements appeared unintentional, they suggested that they would have materially affected the outcome. There was a real risk that the jury would not have appreciated the point being made by the judge about the extreme caution with which they should assess the previous inconsistent statements of the virtual complainant before accepting them as true, they said. The judges also pointed out that the judge made a serious error when summing up the man's defense to the jury. By using the word suppose, the jury might have been lured into the false belief that it was optional as opposed to mandatory for them to consider the case for the defense in their determination as to whether the prosecution had proven its case, they said. In deciding that the man should face a retrial, the panel considered the need for persons accused of sexual offenses against children to be prosecuted. People should face trial for serious offenses and not escape due to technical mistakes as in this case, York Soo-han said, as she noted that the man would not be prejudiced by the decision. The panel ordered that the case be listed for case management before a High Court master by June 17. The appeal panel did not consider bail for the man, as neither his attorneys nor prosecutors were prepared to make the application, which will now have to be made at a later date. The man was represented by Jagdeo Singh, Daniel Khan, Eula Nathai Lachman, Matthew Gale, and Mitchell Gonzalez. Deputy Director of Prosecutions, DPP, George Busby, and Prosecutor Sabrina Dugdeen Jaglal represented the state. Woman struck by maxi taxi in Cunupia. A woman is hospitalized after she was struck by a maxi taxi in Cunupia. Police said around 10:45 a.m. on Monday, a green-band maxi taxi overtook a line of vehicles along the southern main road Warren Hill, Cunupia, and collided with a white Nissan X-Trail that was about to turn onto Emmanuel Trace. The maxi taxi ran off the roadway onto the compound of Lin Hai Restaurant and struck a 45-year-old Cunupia woman, as well as a parked white Mitsubishi Lancer. The driver of the maxi fled the scene. The woman remains hospitalized in stable condition at the Mount Hope General Hospital. Cunupia police are investigating.